Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you'll meet Michelle O'Neill. She's an author, speaker, award-winning attorney, and she's going to talk about divorce and how it hits women harder. Her journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, obviously, divorce is hard on everyone in the family, including the kids, but my next guest makes the point that it hits women harder than it does men. Michelle O'Neill is in the studio. She's an author, speaker, award-winning attorney, and you just reminded me that I interviewed you back in my Channel 4 days.
So back when we were both a lot younger, Jeff.
Right. We still look good. So let's talk a little bit about that point you're making, that divorce does hit women harder.
Divorce really does hit women harder. I mean, you're correct. Divorce is hard on everybody, especially the children. But statistically, divorce actually does hit women harder. You know, the statistics, I'm a big statistics gal. So, you know, statistics say that women suffer a drop of 40% of their household income whenever they get divorced. 1 out of 3 unmarried mothers live in poverty.
Wow.
When you talk about women over 50, and before we went on camera, we were kind of talking about, you know, being over 50. Mm-hmm. Women over 50 who get divorced, 2 out of 3 of them live in poverty. Wow. When you average all the statistics of divorced women, 40% of them are living in poverty. Now, that's not even talking about the women who are struggling. That's talking about poverty statistics, right? And then you switch and talk about men. You know, men who get divorced, generally, they don't suffer a drop in their household income after divorce. Why is that? Because out in the workplace, men overall make more money doing the same job than women, right? So women make less doing the same job than men. In the workforce, women make less overall, just comparatively, than men do. So women, by and large, depend on getting married and having men as a provider. When they get divorced, and the statistics for that are, I told you I was a statistics girl, right? So average length of marriage, 8 years, all right? First marriages, 50% end in divorce, okay? You know, so here we have, with all of that kind of coming together, we have a whole lot of women who are getting married, thinking the man's going to be the plan. They may be working, right, but they're making less than their husbands. They're dependent on that income. And then all of a sudden they find themselves, for whatever reason, no judgment here, maybe the man's fault, maybe not, maybe the women are deciding to get divorced, maybe not, whatever happens, they find themselves divorced. And women after divorce have it harder. And you know what else is an interesting statistic? I'll leave you with this and we can just go on with the conversation.
Sure.
After divorce, men's health suffers more. Women actually are healthier after divorce. So income worse, health better.
Wow.
But that tells you that what women need to do after divorce is just focus on themselves and have a better plan. They need to focus on being independent and have a better personal and financial plan so that they don't have to go and make the man the plan again.
I love that. She's a very popular speaker. We found her speaker reel. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
So when she leaned down and she grinned and she winked at me and she said, "Girl, don't be cattle," what she really meant was to stand out, was don't go along to get along. Be your own person and stand out and don't just kind of follow the cattle nose to tail all the way to the hamburger factory. So I take off and I'm walking. And then I get all warmed up and I think, okay, I can do this. I'm gonna jog a little bit. Probably was more like trotting, but we'll call it jogging because it makes me feel better. So I take off and I jog about the distance of a mailbox. And I walked the rest of the way, and I'm thinking, if Ziegler can do it, I can do it. Ask them, what are the 3 adjectives that you use to describe me behind my back? What do you say about me behind my back? If you were going to tell somebody else about me and my business and me in my profession, what are the 3 words that you use to describe me when you tell other people about me?
And then what happens, and that's all great, and hopefully it stays that way, but what happens whenever Prince Charming turns out to not be the plan? As Miss Rita over there says, sometimes the man ain't the plan. And so when that happens, you need to know. You need to know what you need to know. And if you think that that's happening, or if you suspect that there's a problem, even before you know that there's a problem, you need to educate yourself.
Leave it all out there. And whether I looked like a gazelle with butterfly wings or a turtle through quicksand, my husband and I crossed the finish line together. I was almost last. But you know what? I wasn't in it to win it. I was in it to finish it.
I'm really impressed with your speaking career, and you were telling me before the show that you've organized this group of female lawyers. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, whenever I turned 50, I really kind of went in this place of I'd achieved a lot of success as an attorney. And you and I, being from Dallas, we remember Zig Ziglar. You probably got to meet him, local guy, and Zig Ziglar talks about what do you do when you've become successful. Then you go on to move on to be significant to others. And so I was in this place of trying to figure out how to be significant to others. And the first thing that I did with a girlfriend of mine was we created a group called Hell on Heels. And it's a group for women lawyers where we wanted to create a community for positivity and support for women lawyers. Because in the history, the 30-something years that I've been a divorce lawyer, that has not always been the case. Women have not always supported each other in my profession. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to be a significant improvement of that for young women lawyers coming up in the profession and provide a place where they could, with safety and security, talk about issues that we have, talk about things that go on in our profession, and be a place where they can have positive support. So we have 1,700 women lawyer members of our group and do a couple of in-person events a year, and then it's a Facebook community where we interact every day.
Michelle, you've got a lot going on.
I don't sleep, I promise.
She also has a very popular podcast, and she's doing it from our studios just down the hall. Let's go ahead and show a little video of this and talk about Divorced to Dynamite. I love the name. How did you come up with that?
I just kind of one of those middle of the night when I don't sleep things. I thinking about how to be a champion for women after divorce, and without judgment of how we get there, women after divorce, and divorce hits women harder. And what do these women need? They need to dynamite their lives. They need to focus on themselves. And I call it become like Rocky. They need to have a plan and implement the plan so that they can have independent personal and financial freedom.
Wow, I can see how this is going to become very, very popular.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
I also want to talk about your book. It's the sweetest book ever.
Oh.
Wisdom from Mama. So, all right, tell us about your mom.
So my mom was a pistol, but she was also a wonderful lady. But she had all these euphemisms, and they were very, very Texas euphemisms, like don't be cattle. And when she would say don't be cattle, it was basically she would tell you that you don't want to be cattle because, cattle follow each other nose to tail all the way to the hamburger factory. So you don't want to be cattle. You want to just kind of do your own thing and run your own life. But she had all these little euphemisms. One of them was be like Mickey Mouse. In other words, Mickey Mouse, just, it's all Mickey Mouse. Nothing's really all that important. The things that in the moment you think are super important, they really aren't. There's very few real problems in life that are super important. So she had all these little Texas euphemisms that are just real catchy and soundbitey. Wow. And one day I just decided to write that little book. It's been a few years ago, and I say in the book that I really wrote it for me because my mom passed away in 2010, and I was afraid I would forget them.
Wow.
And now you're going to make me cry. We're not going to cry today. But I wrote them for me. I wrote the book more for me than I did for anybody else because I didn't want to forget them. And so I wrote the stories. They're just little personal stories about me, like the day I was in yoga and my yoga bra failed and I had a Janet Jackson moment in yoga.
Gosh.
Just little personal stories, Jeff. The real stuff that happens in life. I mean, see that? I bet that wasn't on your bingo card today.
I did not see that coming. So, let's also talk about your law firm.
Yes.
You've been in practice now for 30 years. Let's go ahead and pull up her website because you guys have assembled a kind of a dream team of lawyers, haven't you?
We have. We have been in practice over 9 years. We're going on our 10th year in my current law firm, over 30 years as a lawyer. But Michael and I have been together for over 10 years now. We went from people betting against that we would make it 6 months together. I think there were some people that had an over-under, and the most that anybody over-undered that we would last together was a year. Wow. And here we are. We'll have our 10th anniversary next year. And we've gone from, betting against us to what I would argue, maybe some would argue against me, the top family law firm in the state of Texas. We have 4 offices.
Congratulations.
Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and now we just opened Frisco with more to come. We're not stopping there. So we're super excited. And
what would you say sets you apart from others in your field?
I think, honestly, our willingness to fight the hard fights. Family law, you want to believe that family law and divorce should be, and you want it to be the easy kind. You want to believe that people can nicely and sweetly reach agreements about how to reorganize their families. The reality is that some people cannot, and some people cannot set aside the emotion or cannot reach the agreements, or that whatever their issues are, that they have to have a judge decide them, or they have to have a jury decide them. Texas is the only state in the country, therefore the only state in the world, that allows jury trials in custody cases. Wow. And we are the law firm in the state that is known for trying the most jury trials in custody cases. So therefore, we're known as the law firm in the world that tries the most custody cases and jury trials. So we fight the hard fights. I mean, bottom line, if you have an easy breezy, all agreeable divorce, we're probably not the law firm for you. Sure. There's law firms that can do that easier and cheaper. We're the law firm that fights the hard fights, the complex fights, complex marital property, tough stuff. It's the tough stuff fights. I personally, I argue appellate cases as well. I'm about to go argue my 4th case in front of the Texas Supreme Court. So, we fight the complex stuff and the hard stuff.
Okay, we're almost out of time, so final thoughts.
I told you I was going to talk more than you had
No,
time
that's
for.
fine. Well, tell us, final thoughts. What would you like to leave people with?
Yeah, I think that divorce is hard. It's harder on women, and I just really want to be a platform to encourage women to level up and find that independence for themselves. Statistically speaking, there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think the marriage rates are going down. The chances that whether it's young people or future marriages, people are just going to get married less, which means that women need to take measures to stand on their own 2 feet. And that's what I hope to deliver through my podcast. Divorce to Dynamite.
I love it. We're going to end with her YouTube channel where you can find her podcast. Put that on the screen. The great Michelle O'Neill. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.